I think, close to being completed, and I hope that we can get the report from Director Mueller as soon as possible.
That's all we have time for today. Thank you so much. Thank you.
All right, you were listening there to the Acting Attorney General Matthew Whitaker answering a question from our CBS News Washington correspondent Paula Reed and characterizing, this is the first time we've really heard this from the Acting Attorney General, a time frame of some sort, revealing that the Mueller probe is close to being completed. Let's go ahead and turn to our Paula Reed, who's standing by right now at the Justice Department. Paula, incredible news there, prompted by your question. Tell us, what else did the Acting Attorney General have to say about the Mueller probe?
Well, he says that he has been fully briefed on the special counsel's investigation into Russian meddling in the 2016 campaign. He said he is looking forward to a report from the special counsel, and he expects that the special counsel will be completed soon. And Elaine, the reason that is so significant is because a lot of people have hinted that this could be wrapping up. They have perhaps hoped that it would be wrapping up. But this is the first time we've heard a Justice Department official suggest that that is in fact the case. And when it comes to Acting Attorney General Whitaker, he is the top Justice Department official overseeing this investigation. Now, when he first came to the Justice Department as Acting Attorney General, there were some concerns about whether or not he should be overseeing the Russia investigation because of some previous criticism he had made of certain aspects of Robert Mueller's investigation before he became the Acting Attorney General. That's what I asked him about. I said, look, before you came here, when you were just a public citizen, you criticized the probe, but now that you're fully briefed, do you still have any concerns? His answer suggested that he did not have any concern based on his briefing, but the fact that this could be wrapping up and that he looks forward to a report, Elaine, that suggests it is possible the special counsel investigation could wrap up in a matter of weeks, because we do expect that Whitaker will be succeeded by nominee William Barr, as Attorney General.
And Paula, just remind us about the circumstances of Matthew Whitaker's appearance there. This was actually initially an announcement to announce criminal charges related to the Chinese telecommunications company Huawei. What did we learn?
That's right. This was also his first press conference. As you saw in that video there, he looked a little nervous. He was sweating. I think we may have gotten a little extra news because he was nervous, but he was here to announce charges against Chinese telecom giant Huawei. They are the largest manufacturer of smartphones in China, and there have long been concerns for over a decade here in Washington about whether or not Huawei was using its technology, its infrastructure to help China spy. And here the Justice Department accuses Huawei and its U.S. subsidiaries of trying to steal trade secrets. In fact, they even accused them of offering bonuses to any employees who can steal confidential information. Elaine, they used one example of the robot named Tappy. Tappy was a robot back in 2012, was used to test iPhones, and apparently T-Mobile allowed some Huawei engineers into their factory to see this robot, and they tried to steal some of her IP. In fact, they went so far as to take a part of the robot to try to help duplicate it in China. But one of the questions that I had for Justice Department officials is, that happened back in 2012. There have been concerns about Huawei here in Washington for over a decade. What took so long? Acting Attorney General Whitaker told me, Elaine, he said, look, this is just how long it took us to get the facts and get our ducks in a row. But we are also, of course, just 48 hours out of high-stakes trade talks with China.
All right, CBS News Washington correspondent Paula Reed covering it all from the Justice Department and asking the news-making question on the Mueller probe. Thank you so much, Paula. President Trump's longtime associate and former campaign advisor Roger Stone arrived in Washington this afternoon ahead of his scheduled appearance in federal court on Tuesday. Stone is expected to plead not guilty to 7 charges filed against him by Special Counsel Robert Mueller. In an interview with CBS News Chief Justice and Homeland Security correspondent Jeff Pegues, Stone says he plans to tell the truth to the Special Counsel's investigators and discussed his relationship with President Trump.
Today, you seem to suggest that you were open to cooperating with the special counsel.
Well, I'm going to tell the truth no matter what. I have no intention of not telling truth. I have never not told the truth. Claims that I was less than truthful before the House Intelligence Committee will be disproven. I don't know the scope of their investigation. They've never had any meaningful discussion with my attorneys.
Is there a line you wouldn't cross to protect a president?
I'm not going to lie. I'm never going to say anything that's not truthful under oath or otherwise. That's the line. But again, the constant speculation that Donald Trump has done things that he hasn't done to my knowledge.
I have to ask, have you talked to him about a pardon, potentially?
I have most definitely had no discussions with anyone.
It's never come up?
Has never come up with him or anyone who works for him.
Okay. Are you reluctant to criticize him for that reason? For what?
I've criticized him extensively on policy matters, and I've praised him on policy matters. I haven't been shy when I disagree with him, and I have been fully supportive when I agree with him.
Does he still take your calls?
I have not talked to him in well over a year. I'm sure his lawyers have advised me not to talk to him. I'm sure his lawyers have advised him not to talk to me. My lawyers have advised me not to talk to him. We have not communicated.
Earlier, my colleague Caitlin Huey-Burns spoke with former White House Communications Director Anthony Scaramucci and asked him if the president should be concerned by the charges filed against Stone.
I want to first talk about Roger Stone. He's indicted on Friday, big news. How concerned should President Trump be?
Well, I mean, the president knows the facts better than any of us, but, you know, I think what the presumption is that Roger had information that was probably improperly obtained. I'm not saying it was or it wasn't. Let's assume that he's innocent until he's proven guilty. But if there's a linkage between Roger and then Steve Bannon, and then the next question would be, is that linkage also a direct line into the president? And so I don't know the answer to that. I was on that campaign for almost a year. I was on the president's transition team for 12 weeks. I never saw anything related to Russian collusion. What happened with Wikileaks and Roger Stone and Steve Bannon, if it is illegal and it got up to the president, that's a very bad set of facts for the president. But I still don't think that removes him from office, because you're going to have to get 67 senators to vote for his removal from office. Even if the House says we're going to impeach him, there has to be a trial in the Senate. So what I'm hoping is that cooler heads prevail here and we start to decriminalize things that happen in our political conversation.
And at the White House Monday, Press Secretary Sarah Sanders was asked if the president knew about Roger Stone's alleged conversations with WikiLeaks. Here's what she had to say.
What I can tell you is that the president did nothing wrong throughout this process, and the charges of the indictment against Mr. Stone have absolutely nothing to do with the president.
Let's bring in Sam Nunberg. He's a former campaign advisor to Donald Trump. Sam, thanks so much for being here. So before we jump in on Roger Stone specifically, let me just ask you about the news from our Paula Reed's question there to the acting attorney general. The fact that the acting attorney general says that the probe is close to being completed. What is your reaction?
Well, I'm glad to hear that. This is going to go to a political question, Elaine, and we're obviously going to see that report carefully studied by a Democrat-controlled House. I suspect, in fact, I'm 100% certain, if I had to place a bet in Vegas, that he will be the president. They will have articles of impeachment go through the House, and then we will get to a trial in the Senate. And it was good to wind this up as soon as possible. The ultimate question is whether or not, from a political point of view, Donald Trump conspired with the Russians. I don't believe so, but it is what it is, and we'll find out.
So just give us a little bit of background here, because you actually appeared before the special counsel's grand jury. Tell us about that. What do those questions focus on? I know you've talked about that publicly before.
I've talked, well, the questions in terms of Roger Stone. I can't talk about the questions in terms of Donald Trump, and I won't do that to the government. What I would say is the questions were extensively in terms of the grand jury, as opposed to my voluntary interview. Grand jury, what did I know? What could they prove that I knew? In terms of, they wanted color in terms of Roger's relationship with the campaign, why Roger left the campaign. He did resign, despite what Donald Trump would say. They wanted to know what Roger had told me in terms of communications with Julian Assange, what I thought at the time, what subsequently I thought, and I'll have to leave it at that. But with that said, ultimately, I don't believe anything I said actually hurt Roger, in terms of saying that Roger was part of a conspiracy. And in his indictment, he is not part of that ominous, amorphous charge that Robert Mueller has used, conspiracy to defraud America.
What can you tell us regarding your voluntary appearance before the special counsel?
The voluntary, they wanted a lot more color in terms of why certain actions were made, in terms of what Roger had told me over the years about President Trump, then Mr. Trump, in terms of interactions between Donald Trump, Roger. That's all I'm comfortable really to say. But extensively, I would say at the end of the day, because it's been publicly reported even by this news organization that the special counsel had asked Donald Trump how often he spoke with Roger Stone. That was something that was discussed extensively, and it's something they're very interested in terms of the content of those conversations. I think that's fair to say.
When you heard about Roger Stone's arrest and these charges, what was your reaction?
Well, from a personal view, I've been very upset about the fact that he has been targeted. He's somebody I've known for 8 years. He's somebody who I don't think I would have had a political career if I had not worked for him, despite the fact that we were both mistreated by Donald Trump. I've learned a lot from him, and he's somebody who can be a good man. What I would say is that in terms of the charges, whether it gets to obstruction of justice, witness tampering, we don't have time to go over all of them. I think some of those are not valid, and I think other ones Roger can possibly make a compelling case. But yeah, it's very upsetting. Look, it is not an easy situation for anyone to be under the position, Elaine, where you have to go in and you know a good friend of yours is being at least, in the very least, a subject, if not a target of an investigation, and you have to tell the truth.
So the White House says that Roger Stone's arrest has nothing to do with the White House, nothing to do with the president. What do you say?
Technically, it has nothing to do with the White House. I would agree with that. What I would say is, as I said when I immediately heard about this, if Donald Trump wants to disown Roger Stone, if he wants to badmouth him the way he badmouthed me, the way he badmouthed Roger, if he wants to mistreat Roger throughout this process, I will defend Roger. We were very mistreated. He was somebody who Donald Trump wanted his counsel even after Roger left the campaign. And I would tell you something else about Donald Trump. When Donald Trump fired me, I said to him, "You're making a big mistake." Had Donald Trump not fired me and had Roger not resigned, Paul Manafort would never have been on the campaign. So congratulations, Mr. President. It didn't really work out for you.
So, I mean, I feel like there's more you want to say about that. I mean, what do you really mean by that?
What I mean is Roger Stone has been very badly mistreated. He's very loyal to Donald Trump. He's been mistreated throughout the years by Donald Trump. If they want to publicly discredit him, publicly disown him, then I will counter that. The fact of the matter is, it is, at least what is already public, it is known that he had communications with very senior people up until October of the campaign. So I think Donald Trump should be quite careful. And Roger has to pay his own legal fees. He doesn't get his legal fees paid for by the RNC like others have. And he is under the bind here. We were all subject, Elaine, to this investigation because Donald Trump in his infinite wisdom wanted to host the Russians less than 24 hours after he fired James Comey. That's a fact. And that's why there had to be a special counsel. Whether I like the special counsel or not, whether I have individual problems, that's an issue.
So do you think, bottom line, that the president or someone in his campaign colluded with Russia? Was Roger Stone involved in that?
Well, I don't want to. It's presumptuous. I don't know if I'll be called as a witness in that trial. But what I would say is that it is a political question whether the president conspired. That is a political question. This is not a RICO charge. He is not the head of the mafia or a business. I don't believe if Donald Trump knew about the Trump Tower Moscow meeting, that's part of a conspiracy. Jerry Nadler, who's the chair of the House Judiciary, has already said it is. Adam Schiff has already said it is. I don't believe that he did anything. For me, the test is different than others, but I see the arguments that are coming. From a personal view, I disagree that he was part of a conspiracy, but it doesn't matter what my opinion is. It matters what the majority of the Democrats' opinions are in the House.
All right, Sam Nunberg, thanks so much for your time, Sam.
Thank you, Elaine.